Hello, Gotham City, and welcome to Gotham City Tonight. As usual, I am Lexi, and I am here with Ryan, and we have a night that I am real excited about tonight.
What?
Ryan, I know you are also excited about it, but a few of these things are like right up my alley.
Oh, this is how I plan things. When we go, what are we going to talk about? I like to put the spotlight on you specifically, and because I don't know. I think these are really good topics, and we're going to talk about Bruce Wayne's sexuality in a recent comic that just came out, and we're going to talk about Damian, whose comic series just ended for now. You know how these things work. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the merchandise showing up on the shelves or about to show up on the shelves uh, for a movie no one's really looking forward to. But I noticed some things about it, but we'll also get into that as well. So, Lexi, do you want to take it away and kick off the discussion?
I do. And I think we just need to start right off the bat with bisexual Bruce Wayne. And to be clear, bisexual Bruce is definitely the fandom talking. For all we know, this man could be bi-curious, as much as we all hate that phrase, pansexual, experimenting. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's not straight. Um, so we are specifically talking about Batman the Knight, Knight. And it is this series that is going on right now, written by Chip Zdarsky. Yes, is
Zdarsky.
that right? Yes.
Yeah.
And it is covering those years before Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, where he's doing his world tour, studying with the masters and the experts, and learning how to become what he wants to be. And it's actually really fantastic. If you haven't read it or if you haven't looked at it, the art is beautiful. The storytelling is really fun. I actually appreciate a lot of the female characters that are written into it. I still have some issue, obviously, as I will in probably any DC comic for the rest of my life, the characterization of females. But this is a Bruce-centric comic. This is about him and his growth. And I am really enjoying it. But this has also been the comic that people are saying, oh my God, they are making Bruce canonically bi. And that happened earlier in this comic run, but the recent issue came out where they feel like it's even more blatant than it was before. So we're going to go over some of the pages tonight and some of the things that they've done that make it feel like they are hinting at this relationship between Bruce Wayne and Ghostmaker specifically, or Koa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right out loud. Sometimes when you read things, it's a little bit more of a challenge. But Ghostmaker, Ghostbat is the ship name. That's very fun. But it really feels like they are hinting at this. So I think, my personal opinions aside, I'm going to quote a movie that I don't know if you've seen, Ryan, but it's called Into the Spider-Verse. But you know,
First I've heard of
maybe
it.
you've heard of it. A small little indie animated film that came out a while ago. But I want to re-examine my personal biases because I am very biased for a bisexual Bruce Wayne. And I will say that right off the bat. I just don't think it makes any sense for this man in this skin tight leather batsuit to be a heterosexual. It just does not add up.
Right.
So, but I will say, I think certain panels in this comic are taken on with much more enthusiasm than what we are actually given. But again, part of that is the desperation for representation. So I have managed to make technology my friend this evening, and we are going to take a look at some of the panels that everyone is talking about, and you'll get mine and Ryan's takes on them. Yes.
Yes, and right before we start, I just want to give a quick shout out to Oz watching, Gotham Stalker. Looking forward to hearing. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think of the show after you watch it tomorrow, please. Flash. Psh, thank you for being here, and Baducci. Great line.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's let you get into it.
Absolutely. So this was the first panel that came out a few months ago, months ago, that first had people losing their minds. And if you cannot tell, it is obviously the top part of this panel with Ghostmaker and Bruce in a very intimately drawn position. And the next panel is someone coming in saying, "Am I interrupting anything?" So there's no denying that in that top panel there is tension, and that was intentionally written. That is canon in this scene in the comic. That the page before this, Ghostmaker is talking about how he feels like he was alone in this world. There was no one else like him, no one else who understood him. And then he says, "But you," as he leans into Bruce's face. This also takes place right after an espionage mission where Ghostmaker was with another man, seducing him in his office. So Ghostmaker has been very blatantly established as at least willing to play the part, right before this scene where, I mean, this lighting, this panel, that is romantic.
Yes.
But as the scene goes on, we find out that Bruce had used that moment to steal something off of Ghostmaker's person. So this is where we get into the debate of, is Bruce bisexual because he allowed this moment, because he seemed to enjoy this moment? Would he have let this kiss happen if they hadn't been interrupted? Or, as a lot of people have been wanting to use as the opposite argument, was he playing along to get what he wanted off of Ghostmaker?
Oh, that is, yeah, because this is Bruce Wayne. He does that. He manipulates.
And specifically, this mentor in this scene was teaching them about espionage, about doing what you need to do to get what you need, manipulating people, flattering people. And Bruce has actually just come off of a failed seduction attempt. While Ghostmaker's was successful, but Bruce's was on a woman.
Right. Well, oh man, now that you've all like set this up, now I actually don't know what to like. He very well could be. I mean, you got like, this is a Bruce Wayne before he's Batman, right? So this is
Yes.
really him trying to discover who he is, right? He's not
literally figuring himself out.
like legit. Like he hasn't even realized he's a Batman yet. Like
Yes.
he's still full of vengeance. He wants these skills so that he can have justice, proper justice in his eyes. So, I mean, I absolutely do think he's seduced in that moment. And I mean, we have to actually look at the panels and how we're being told the story as well. Like that top panel alone, we're right up there with them. Like we're about to kiss with them.
Oh, yeah. And I think
Right?
it's also important to note that at this point, this is the second or third, I think the second mentor that Ghostmaker and Bruce have gone to together. They met in the martial arts studio that's on the border of China and Japan, and have been traveling together ever since, because Ghostmaker, like, Bruce gets on his moral high ground about some assassins being trained there. Ghostmaker gives up his chance to train there to fight by Bruce's side and defend him. So the fact that Ghostmaker felt like he could even lean in, and that was an option with Bruce at this point, they know each other very well at this point, to me says that there was something non-espionage pre-established between the lines.
Right. Yeah. And, it doesn't, honestly, it's what's funny about all this and some of the outrage that's coming with it, because, people are, I saw some of the
pissed.
Well, it's just, it's the same old piss though, right? It's just the using the attack of, which is one of them I saw today was, it's like they're writing a fan fiction. It's like, well, that's what all comics are. I hate to tell you.
So was every single scene ever with him and Selena.
Absolutely.
Or him and Talia, or him and Jezebel, or him and insert literally anyone else here.
Absolutely.
Him and Babs.
Okay.
I'll take Ghostmaker over Barbara for a pairing.
Oh, absolutely. Any day.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's just, and end of the day, I mean, people are so worried about still being able to connect with Batman or Bruce Wayne. I think there's already a red flag there. Because with any of these characters, whether it's even someone as as good and pure as Superman, or someone who kind of just walks that line like Batman can. I mean, we never relate fully to these characters. There's always just little bits and bops and
Right. Because at the end of the day, we're not dressing up in these crazy costumes and running across these rooftops and doing these things.
absolutely. And all this will change with when the next writer writes the next story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've been all reading comics now long enough to know the moment. It's like when they change a director for a movie line, right? It's just things are going to things just change. And this is one of these latest changes. And to me it doesn't change anything really about Bruce other than he may have slept with a guy.
Yeah, he's still, because this series is so well written. Like, I love this young, angry, not this imperfect Bruce Wayne. It's a really fun exploration of him. So this was the first one that came out a while ago that kind of first had people, turning heads about Bruce. But again, they set it up in this way where you could brush it off if you needed to, as he was getting something from him.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at some of the other slides, the ones that I pulled, that I feel like these ones just kind of set the scene, because the reason we're talking about this today is a new issue dropped, I want to say this week, that had another scene.
Last week it dropped.
Last week, yes.
Yes.
So these
everyone's
are
had a
some
week.
of
No
the
spoilers.
Yeah. So these are some of the scenes that kind of lead up. So this is after he and Ghostmaker, who at this point is going by Anton, he's going under a fake name, they're at their next mark. This is the one who teaches them to be marksmen, teaches them how to be master, with bow and arrow and then guns. You see Bruce training with guns in these scenes, and you see his internal struggle, his despair over it. And at one point, their instructor realizes that the way Anton is shooting, like when they hunt deer, he doesn't go for the quick, painless kill. He just shoots them where he knows they'll die eventually and does not care if they're bleeding out and suffering. And for this instructor, that's a huge, you're a psychopath, red flag. So he basically, this instructor is going to kill Anton. Bruce has the gun on the instructor to protect Anton, but Bruce doesn't kill. It's this, standoff. And so Bruce shoots the instructor's hand, and then Anton turns around and kills the instructor and finishes him off. So now they're fighting at this point, because Bruce is like, oh my God, you're a cold-blooded killer. That's not what I thought of you. Anton is like, you needed to be more realistic. Your ideals are going to get you killed. Classic Bruce and his villainous lover argument. I'm sorry, we've seen this with Talia. We've seen this with all of the women villain that he's been with. And I think that to me is the thing. It's just so textbook for the relationships we've seen him have, just in a different gender.
Right.
So this is kind of the arguments where Bruce is talking to Anton, and he's saying, you're the coward after all the time we spent together. Then he specifically says our friendship. He uses the word friendship. But then he says, you're too scared to be anything other than truly alone. And then so when Ghostmaker does eventually leave, Bruce, you see him, this is him after Anton has the gun on him, decides not to kill Bruce, and walks away. And Bruce is left with literal tears in his eyes saying, my heart is shattered all over again. So they made a point to throw in the word friendship.
Yes.
And it is still possible to have this kind of a feeling over a platonic end. However, in the context, again, of everything they've been through, of the scenes before, the verbiage of my heart is shattered, Bruce Wayne crying alone in the woods, looking so obviously rejected, it just implies a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it does. And I know we talked about this off as well before we started, and it was kind of, to me, they're still throwing out those safety nets.
Yes.
Right? That's the friendship, not quite saying it, but we're going to heavily imply it.
Mm-hmm.
And that way they don't get any, I think, you were calling it queer baiting.
Yeah.
Right? There's some of that happening here too, right? Where it's, it could be, it couldn't be. And it's just, and don't get me wrong too. I also love a could there, couldn't be. We all love The Nanny, right? And
Oh
especially through
yeah.
those first seasons, we didn't know. We're
But
her and
that's a
Mr.
will they,
Sheffield.
won't they?
Yes, but it's just
Which is
like,
a
but
little bit different.
a little bit different, but still exciting because
Yes.
it's yeah, is he, isn't he? And and this series is not done yet. We still got 2 more issues to go.
Yes. So here's where we're going to get to the panel that had the internet blowing up all over again after that first almost kiss. So here, Bruce is talking to his latest mentor, which is all about this is where he learns to regulate his emotions, to teach himself not to feel pain. This is the knowledge, the mind over matter mentor that he goes through. And his mentor and him are talking about Bruce thinks it's time to leave. His mentor thinks that like he still hasn't controlled his rage and his love specifically, and these other feelings, these distractions. And he says to him, I gather knowledge. It's what I do. I know all about the little ghost that broke your heart. And that was the panel that had people losing their minds
Oh.
because everyone believes that is obviously a reference to Ghostmaker and the shattered heart that he left Bruce with in the last issues.
Well, I don't see. I don't understand why people are mad at this. It's just like this is just kind of like I know I kind of came in kind of hoping to kind of be that not don't want to be I just kind of wanted to see that kind of middle ground. Like even I think Oz kind of phrased it well here too, like giving fans a chance to believe their own narrative, which fans are going to do regardless. Doesn't
Oh, yeah.
And but I mean to get mad at this. I mean, if people are going to choose to create choose their own narrative for this, like then he could be talking about anybody. He could be talking about Andrea, who become like Phantasm. He could be they could be talking about anybody at this point. So I'm all for it. Again, I'm all down for Ghostmaker. Bruce.
So it does confirm pretty heavily that at least he's referring to Ghostmaker because he does show up pretty quickly after this at this location, wounded. He comes here to help Bruce at this point. So again, so in this story, so at this point, the reason Bruce is so furious is not only did Ghostmaker abandon him, but he thinks Ghostmaker has been sabotaging him, cutting his lines, doing things to try and hurt him along the way. And it's after this moment that he finds out that it wasn't Ghostmaker, that it was someone else who was trying to hurt him. So he has all this rage specifically for him because he again feels so betrayed. It's just, and this is where I actually really appreciate. So it just feels so heavily implied. It feels so intentional, which is almost what is frustrating because queer baiting is basically implying that there is something there without ever confirming it because you get the supposed credit of representation and gaining that audience without having to sacrifice an audience that would not support that.
It's like every issue of Grayson.
Yes, but literally, it's like Supernatural was a really big criminal of that, and it really is a frustrating thing as a queer reader when we are at the point where you can just commit to the representation now. And I don't know if they ever will with Bruce, but they are, I think, are at a point where they are more than happy to let it be implied. And obviously, when it comes to something as big as DC, there's a difference between what the writer maybe would like to confirm or not confirm, and then versus what the editor, what the company itself is allowing them to present.
Right. Yep.
So working in that is also, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know who wants to portray what. But I think it would be impossible to deny that someone somewhere in this creative vision is hoping that you assume there is a romantic thing there.
Right. Yeah, no, I am totally with you on that. Because it's, again, they used to do that with Wonder Woman for years. And they finally just went out and said it. But with her, it's a little
more. They're like,
more
it's an island full of women. No, they're not celibate. Fill in the blanks.
Yeah, right. Right. And so, but again, they're safer with her to do it with her first kind of thing because it's a woman. And
it's just like Harley and Ivy. That's just going to be more accepted
Yeah,
than two men.
correct. Absolutely. You know, I really hope that it may if they're not ready to have just Bruce just come out and just be it and be like, hey, I've had some flings with some men, whatever the case, as Bruce Wayne. If they're not ready to do that yet, then so be it. But I'm hoping if this is the route they are going to go, then I hope that they do commit and then eventually just like I think maybe we just gotta like let a couple more generations grow up.
Yeah,
It could be that too,
absolutely.
right? Like got to get rid of
For
some of this
sure.
old guard.
Yeah. And I think this comment really says it. I think he could see him as a close friend, the only true connection he's had since his parents died. And that would be heartbreaking regardless of romance, but it feels like more for sure. And that is definitely the way that this is written is they leave it just open enough that you really can interpret it that way if you really don't want Bruce to have his college experience. You
Right.
know, they leave it open enough that you
Right.
can. But I just think there's no denying that they wanted an implication there.
Yeah. No, and you know what? Kudos to Chip Zdarsky for and DC for even letting them go this far.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine them even going near this 5 years ago.
And I still can't imagine them doing anything like this in the main Batman or Batman and Robin continuities.
Correct. Correct. And if someone could easily just come in and be like, "This is an Elseworlds, so it doesn't matter." You know,
Exactly.
that's another. I hope they don't do that. It's Batman's canon and origin canon and all this stuff. It changes. It seems to change every what
Constantly.
10 years. They'll do like a complete
Yeah.
almost like a complete reset or update or whatever. And I
Yeah.
mean,
I
granted,
mean, there
not
are
every
origins where I believe Ghostmaker, he's a childhood friend of Bruce's as opposed to this dude he met on his self-discovery journey.
right, right, like because like they've kind of told a similar story there too with Thomas Wayne,
Hmm.
with them being childhood friends, right? But they were
Yeah.
friends before Bruce's parents passed away. Like they were, and yeah, well, we all know what Hush is all about. We can do a full like anniversary Hush breakdown later this year.
Yes.
I think they're it's a like what it's pretty close to a 25th anniversary.
Oh
Ugh.
my gosh, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I legitimately forgot it was that old. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yep, I know it doesn't feel that way because they're still making toys from Hush, so
Because it was
so
iconic.
it is it really yeah they Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb absolutely killed it with that. But again, it's just like I'm hoping they do something more with this, and even if they make it like a White Knight series, as we've seen in with Sean Gordon Murphy. I think I said that right. John will fix it. He'll correct me. But it's the that White Knight series too. Like that's like a completely different universe, completely different thing, and it's grown into its own like multiple series, multiple spin-offs. And it would kind of be cool to see this kind of take the same route where we kind of get more with more into Bruce, just Bruce being Bruce before there's Batman, and
Mhm.
maybe all these new characters we're getting as well get their own books. We get to kind of see what they're more about too.
Oh yeah,
Like I'm
absolutely.
for it. I'm always all for it. There's always more room for that.
Yeah, which is actually very funny because in the Robin run that we're also going to discuss tonight, it does because that run was the one that overlapped with Shadow War, which had
Mm-hmm.
like Batman Inc. and all that other craziness. But Ghostmaker does make an appearance as part of Batman Inc. It's
Oh, well
a
then,
whole thing. He's still around. Where
well.
Batman is, we're gonna have Ghostmaker.
Oh, that makes things to me now because I didn't know that, and now that makes things really interesting because I don't even know what's happening in the regular title. Like I think I just like it was like a couple months ago. Batman Catwoman just finished,
Right.
and now
And
I'm
then
getting ready for all the
Sentry got
rest of
shot in the
Tom.
neck.
Right? Yes, And like that's where I left off was Tim Drake getting shot in the neck. I didn't even read that. I think it's James Tyrion the Fourth. I didn't even read his run with like another Joker war, and he had like Clown
Yeah.
Killer he introduced, and what's her face? I keep wanting to say Jackpot, but that's not it. That's
Punchline.
Punchline. Jackpot Spider-Man. The but Punchline, right? Because it's just like and man, we should do an episode breaking down Punchline.
I'm not gonna. So I'm also probably biased because Jorge Jimenez, designed her, and I just love his work.
Me too.
Her.
That splash page he did where Batman opens his cape and it says Batman. It's just like, to me, one of the most iconic panels to happen in modern day history.
One of his alternate Super Sons covers is actually my phone background.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because he was on that gorgeous. Too. Yeah, he's
he did
so
the original
good.
Super Sons run.
Yes.
But then we come to Robin.
Yes.
Which had 17 issues, which is not a lot for a solo Robin run.
A little year and a bit.
Yeah. And you just feel like a lot of times with these iconic characters, they usually get a little more. But like we've said with Robin, it's ending because they just have plans for Damian Wayne. And whether we like those plans or not are up in the air. So I only pulled like 2 panels from the Robin run. One panel from the series itself and one from the finale to kind of show us where we're going next, just to address it a little bit. But I am, again, addressing my personal biases. I love this series. After Super Sons ended, I kind of struggled to find another thing that I was like really excited about. And Damian Wayne's solo Robin run was one of the things that like really pulled me back into like the Bat family and the DC universe. And I just thought it was so much fun. It really, it was, first of all, too, it was where we got a more aged up Damian Wayne, and then the timeline didn't add up with Tim Drake still being like 17. But it's fine. They're only 2 years apart. It's always been like that. Don't ask questions. Time works that way.
That's right.
This is okay. Tim Drake didn't have beef with a 10-year-old. We're trying to erase that narrative.
Yeah. But he also had that cool new costume in the gray as well.
Yes, which I also was obsessed with because it doesn't look like a Robin costume, really, which was kind of the point. Damian Wayne is going off doing his solo thing. Dick Grayson is kind of his defender in this when everyone else tries to bring him home. He catches Damian and then lets him go and says, that's where we get, which is one of my favorite panels in like all of comics, where Dick is saying him, Jason, Tim, Steph. He says, we were all Robins to Batman. And then it shows him and Damian and he says, but you were my Robin. And it's really the reminder that even though Damian was a Robin to Batman, to Bruce, eventually, he was Dick's Robin first. He was Dick's Robin before he ever worked with his dad. It was Dick that taught him. It was Dick that really turned him away from killing and his ways and his attitude and like taught him family. It was all Dick Grayson that did that.
Yep. And trust. Taught him a lot about trust and working as a team. Still one of my favorite panels too is like the one where it opens up and it's them tied to a chair and it's just Dick Grayson going, "We're naked, aren't we?" Like it says we're naked. Right?
Honestly, I swear Bruce Wayne is never written worse than when he's written with Damian. They just cannot let Damian be happy. They cannot, because they have these visions for Tim as Robin, because they need Damian to do other things. They need Bruce to push him away. And I honestly feel bad for Bruce Wayne fans and people writing Bruce. And because, he's not a great dad, but they have him doing and saying some pretty horrific things where he's at in his life, already having, his collection of 7 children at this point. He shouldn't be making these blatant of mistakes with his son.
Right. He should have learned a lot of them he should have learned from even Jason Todd.
Exactly. You have
who's also like a troublemaker.
100%. And you have this scene after Alfred dies where he's talking to Damian and he said, if I had been there, Alfred wouldn't have died. Like straight up says that to this kid that is already horrified about the fact that he lost Alfred. And he does later eventually come back and be like, sorry that I said that. But that's it's not better. It's not okay. They keep having him mess up with Damian because they can't let Damian stay in Gotham. And I actually feel bad for Bruce because they really got to stretch to make him awful to chase Damian away at this point.
See, to me, because as we know, like the dynamic between Dick and Damian is that, Dick's the happy, bright, smiley one. Damian is not. And I think that role should get reversed again when he's with Bruce, right? Like, this is a kid who, like, as difficult as he is, from what I gathered, even from like when they first introduced him, he idolized his dad because he was told, like, by his grandfather, by his mother, about how special this man is. This is the man that like bred you. He is like the ultimate weapon and warrior of a human being. He is the pinnacle of human expertise, right?
He was worthy of your mother, of the Al Ghul line.
Yes, right? So to me, when it's, yes, he can still be a little snarky and stuff, right? But I still think he should be just a little more like, hey, Dad, look at me. Like when he's with Bruce, as opposed...
Which is why it sucks so much when Bruce is an ass to him.
And that's where they need to switch it up with Bruce, where, and you're right, I think Bruce has to have that more like, I see you, son, in response.
Yeah, and
right?
They keep giving him those moments.
They need to change the balance. They can't have them.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate because all of those great moments really come from Dick. Like, another one of my favorite conversations, I think this was actually in Tim's run, in Red Robin's run, where Damian finds that he's on Tim's hit list, basically, and he's pissed. And Tim is actually confused. He's like, I don't understand why Damian cares. Like, I don't even know why Damian gives a shit, like what I think. And Dick has this conversation with Tim where he says, the kid bleeds a need for acceptance. Like, despite his attitude, despite anything, that is the core of Damian Wayne, is he is just desperate to please. He's desperate, like, to be accepted, and he's desperate for his father especially, but everyone. He wants to be worthy. He just wants to be good enough.
Yeah, well,
and they keep having Bruce tell him that he isn't.
Right? Like, it's I think that's where they need to kind of switch things up. And it's like, I think what's the next thing? Like, this whole series is leading into Batman versus Robin.
Yes. So that is one of the panels. We've already kind of touched on it. So I'll just show the panels that I grabbed just so we can take a look at them.
Yes.
But this one is, I think the best part of the Robin run is the character development. When you talk to people who hate Damian Wayne, 9.5 times, 9.9 times out of 10, they're talking about the first appearance. Like, not even Batman and Robin Damian Wayne, but like, again, so sorry to every creator who is involved in it, but that really, really terrible introduction of Damian Wayne, the modern interpretation of him into the continuity. It was terrible. He was terrible. It just was not good. So this character at this point, but that was a 10-year-old. Batman and Robin, 2009, 10-year-old Damian Wayne. At this point now, we're looking at 14, almost pushing 15-year-old Damian Wayne. And this run specifically really addresses his self-worth issues. There's a whole scene in this one where he talks about, they're like, why are you taking this abuse? Just stop it. Just quit. And he goes, I've been taking abuse my entire life. Like, why do you think I care at this point? Like, he literally dies multiple times in this arc. There's another scene later where he's still messed up with some more Lazarus pit effects. And he sees a dark version of, it's the version of himself that he thinks other people sees. It's basically what he thinks other people sees him as. And he refers to himself as a monster multiple times in this run. Says, like, people look at me like I'm a monster. I'm here to find out whether or not I'm actually a monster. He talks about how people see him as a killer, as vicious, as aggressive, like, and he doesn't know if he's that person or not, but he doesn't want to be. So it's a really fantastic character, because I think that character development has been implied in everything up until now. This was the first thing that really laid it out as no, he's here, he's grown, he's not a 10-year-old assassin anymore. He is a 14-year-old Robin, and he's trying to kind of figure out his place in all this. But like you said, at the end, we get this to be continued in Batman versus Robin #1. Which I was frustrated about at first because, again, I'm tired of evil Damian Wayne. You wrote this brilliant 17-issue story addressing his growth. He really comes to this island that is full of killers. Everyone on this island is a murderer, and he inspires them. He changes them. He transforms this island into a place of refuge for people who have been killers and want to change. So to go from that to, anyway, Batman versus Robin, he's fighting his dad. You kind of want to scream.
Yeah. And it's, because I will honestly don't know where we're going with this, or what the payoff's going to be.
Yeah. So in theory, it looks like in Batman versus Robin, because what they led up to in this is that there is a demon, in the Lazarus pit, in the demon's head, like the Al Ghul line, it all comes back to this demon that's going to destroy the earth, whatever needs a vessel. It looks like this demon is finally going to possess Damian. And so I think Batman versus Robin is going to be a possessed Damian versus his dad, and not normal Damian, which at least is better, I guess.
Right.
But then what do you do after that? Does he come home? Do we kick Tim out again? Does he just go off on his adventures, his little island paradise he's made? What is next for Damian Wayne?
Yeah. What I did, it's just it feels like Damian Wayne has taken the Tim Drake spot, where they don't know where to put him, but they can't quite, they know they can't get rid of him. So they're just kind of putting him in stories because they know that, we're going to do a nostalgia. I am going to call it a nostalgia run, but they are kind of doing a nostalgia run with Tim back as Robin. And he's getting his own solo run as well again, called Robin.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I wonder too, is that going to only last a year and a bit and we go back to Damian? Because this is a nostalgia run, whether people want to call it that or not.
Or are they committed to exploring more of Damian as an Al Ghul and not a Wayne?
Ooh, that would be cool. I would actually love that.
Heavy. Ra's al Ghul makes an appearance in this. Ra's mother makes an appearance in this. She's kind of the new big bad. And Ra's al Ghul in this is very weirdly chill. That is the one thing about the writing I found a little strange. It was enjoyable to see Ra's being a chill grandpa to his kid or his grandkid, but at the same time, and they try to acknowledge it in there where Ra's is talking to Talia, and he's like, "We've murdered him, tortured him, we've done all these things to him. Why would he trust us now?" And I'm like, okay, so you're acknowledging this is the same Ra's that did all those horrific things, and the same Talia did all those horrific things, but now you're trying to write them a happy little Al Ghul family that just wants to protect and care for Damian. It's
I'd be kind of all for that.
But it is weird.
I would love to see them try to do a Full House sitcom style comic of the Al Ghouls, and just
they touched on that a little here. I'm not even gonna lie.
Right, but that would be so much fun to kind of read, and it would just be, I don't know. I would honestly be all for that. Just learning more about their family and getting right in on it, and even getting to learn more about Raja's family lineage as well, which I know goes back centuries.
His mother was cool. It's very dark and twisted, obviously, but it's cool.
Right.
And it's actually not as dark as a lot of, again, still the other things in DC Comics.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah. So yeah, I'm all for it. I would love to, I'd love to see more Rage Natalia stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, all cool with the Al Ghul. Thursday nights at 7.
I love it. Why didn't we choose that name for our show?
Yeah. That would have been, we'll have to do it. We'll do a spin-off.
Yes. That's all I want. Yeah, they're gonna need a lot of therapy to get past the whole "have tried to murder you multiple times" aspect to those family dynamics.
Yeah. Well, you
Again,
get
like
her.
Damian literally died.
Damien
Oh, and
literally
then
died, and it's
Respawn
oh
was
yep.
also introduced in this. Damien's half brother. There was some confusion there if he was a Damian clone or a Damian half brother, but he is the biological child of Talia and Slade Wilson, that Raish created in a test tube to experiment on because, and I quote, Talia wouldn't let him experiment on Damian.
Wow, that's actually kind of cool, to be honest. To have like
So, yeah.
Deathstrokes be the half, well, be the dad to his half brother. That's kind
And
of
again, this is one of those
kind of
things
wild.
where if you let them all grow up and become adults, like we had hoped for John and Damian, watching this half brother become like a big recurring villain for like a Bat Damian is a really cool idea. However, they killed off Respawn.
Oh no!
However, in the last issue, there's a hint that Respawn is still alive.
Of course, he's an
So it's just
Al ghouls don't go down quietly into the night.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was
Does
fun.
Damien still have his man bat?
Oh, Goliath?
Yeah.
Goliath makes an appearance in this. Goliath brings
Okay.
Damian to his grandfather so his grandfather can heal him and give him like a Zen meditation, be at peace with yourself lesson. Because Ra's al Ghul is so known for that.
Right. It's crazy how Batman villains over the last like 10 15 years, how many of them have turned into not quite good guys, but anti-heroes.
Right.
Right? Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of villains even now, like when they give Joker his own series, it's like why are we trying to make these characters relatable? We some characters we
Yeah.
don't need to. And to me, Ra's al Ghul's always kind of been one of them.
Exactly. And I think Talia is different. She's a character where, she was always like with her love for Bruce, with, the times where she wasn't trying to kill Damien, those were sweet.
And her
And they even
loyalties to her
tried to
father.
imply, yeah, her loyalty to her father. I think she was much more in I enjoy seeing her dynamic being more relatable, being more this, being more that. But Raish definitely felt off in this for me. And
Yeah.
again, it was fun. But it was weird. And I think part of that too is because it leads up to Raish's death in Shadow Wars or Shadow War Alpha.
Right.
So I think part of that too was like the make you care, like show why Talia and Damian care that Raish died. But I think they're the type of people that would have cared if he died anyway, even if he was still a sick, sadistic earth shatterer.
Yeah, Natalia for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Natalia. Talia.
Yeah.
Her for sure. It's the because yeah, there's always that loyalty to her father. She would do anything for him because he's this epitome type god type person, and
Absolutely.
so he's kind of been a big deal, and and she's always kind of been that sympathetic villain too, or before Harley Quinn.
Mhm.
Right? Because it's just like, we've seen even in Batman animated series where Bruce would just be like, leave him. Like, what are you doing? Right? And she's all like, oh, I can't. Oh, no. Right?
Exactly.
You
Can't
know,
do it, won't do it. And you're just
it's like,
like,
he's got Wong. You're fine. let,
yeah,
let him be.
he's
Right?
fine.
Like,
He's all
just,
right.
it's all good. Don't worry about it. And so, sure. Yeah. I don't know. I would love to, like I said, more Talia. Even if they gave her own, they just give her a mini series. Do something.
Oh, she's fan. I mean, she has been ever since the Bat Cat wedding didn't follow through. She has been a very recurring love interest kind of return for Bruce, post wedding. So they're
Right.
definitely kind of bringing her in. And I will just say, art wise too, for Talia, she is drawn very distinctly as a woman of color in this Robin solo run, which was fantastic to see.
Right.
Because she is.
Right.
Her name is Talia al Ghul.
I know. It's just, and when I think of it too,
on.
like I think about the old like Neil Adams comics or even Batman animated series. Once again, she comes in. She's just this cute white brunette woman.
Yeah. Or her
You
live
know?
action casting. What was it? Rachel playing her.
Yeah. Let's.
The
Oh
white Al
gosh.
Ghul.
It's so funny when I remember watching oh god, we're gonna get into rises. This is where this is where I become like such a jerk. But with rises, I remember like the one's like, oh, okay, they're bringing in someone new. It's like, oh, this better not be another Rachel kind of thing, like a replacement Rachel. And then all of a sudden they did like and then partway through I was like, oh, I already see where this is going. She's Talia al Ghul. And I remember
Like, oh no, oh no.
yeah, and my buddy, like one of my best friends, Dave, who I went to go see the movie with, he already saw it before me by like a couple days. And I leaned over, I said, I already know what the twist is. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's Talia al Ghul. And he's like, what the fuck? I was like, dude, it's obvious.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is not going to shock me.
So thank you to the artist for that and the colorist. I appreciate this comment. Hey, remember those times I killed you? Ha ha ha, my bad. Come here, you little rascal, give grandpa a hug. And it's funny because that kind of is the exact vibe when Damian sees him again. Because Damian's like, I'm going to murder you. I'm going to fight you right here. And Raish is like, ha ha, lucky for you, I was a physician. I healed all your wounds. If you chill out, we can meditate together. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah,
It's
all right.
pretty hilarious, actually.
So it's like Rage has found yoga and weed.
He's
That's
just,
kind of
vibing now.
He's just
having a vibe.
He's a total vibe.
Having a mellow. He's mellowing out. He's having a time. And he
and
like
that
tries to
happens with
explain
age.
it as like, I lost everything. So now I'm just like recentering myself or whatever. And you're just like, okay.
No, I'm all again. I just want to. What am I trying to say here? What I want with Ra's al Ghul, just go back to being a villain, right? Just go straight up. I mean, the guy goes whenever he comes out of the Lazarus pit, he goes a little more mad.
Absolutely.
So let's
they even tried to explain, like for Talia, that when she did send Heretic after Damian, part of that was pit madness. They like had a whole different run where they tried to explain that like her sister like slit her throat and threw her in the pit and she came out mad and that's when she hurt Damian, which to me does make more sense than her just killing off her son because she has been shown to be obsessively loyal to and like sympathetic to her kid.
Pit rage. I like
pit
that.
rage, pit madness. It explains everything. It's fine.
You could always use that. It's but I like what the because the Lazarus pit also has that ability to have you clear your mind as well, and you see things differently, which is why it's like when Jason Todd got like blown up and hit with a crowbar multiple times, and then
Classic.
he didn't realize who he was until he fell into the Lazarus pit, and then it's like, oh my god, this is who I used to be. And same with the Riddler when he went and found himself a Lazarus pit and used it without without consent as well,
that's
right?
The thing that like they're like impossible to find except for when people accidentally find them.
He didn't. What was because in they explain it in Hush where he used the Lazarus pit to cure his cancer.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so he had like a brain tumor or something. He went and used the Lazarus pit because Riddler's smart enough to know where one is if he needed one, right? He would have the right connections and know the right people to go. And then that's when he came out of the pit and was like, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Right? That was his pit rage. Right?
A little pit clarity.
Yeah, a little. There's pit rage and pit clarity. It all happens. Right? So no, I'm all. I love how you can take that one Lazarus pit, but I love it too because Batman uses it against him, saying, "Hey, if you tell anybody, I will let the League of Assassins know who used that pit."
Oh yeah,
because there's less and less of them. Right? You're done.
Yup. They're a little possessive of their pits.
Yeah, a little bit. But I guess, hang on. I want to bring up one thing, because we got 10 minutes left. I want to bring up one last thing. I guess it's our another Flash update, but not in the way that we usually have it. The merchandise is starting to show up in stores for Halloween, but as well as going to get listed as in Target for their toys. And what's interesting about all of this is that none of it is of the Flash. So it says the Flash, but none of it's the Flash, and it's all Batman. So right now, I think if you even go to like Spirit Halloween or maybe even some Targets and stuff, you'll be able to find the Batman '89 children's costume, which is kind of cool.
I
And
love that.
the toys listed as well from McFarlane. It's a deluxe Keaton Batmobile. It's a Batfleck bike, right? And I think it's like an Aquaman vehicle as well, and some jumbo figures for Batman and all that stuff as well, mega figures. So I find it. I think I don't know how. I think they're already taking the Flash out of the merchandise, and I think they're going to really kind of focus on Keaton and Batman in the toy line. But it's also unfortunate because I was kind of hoping they were going to make a Supergirl figure as well, because I think we kind of
Oh,
forget she's in the movie too. Because
yeah, I completely forgot.
right, because we got that new Supergirl who's stunning. I gotta try to remember her name.
Yeah, no, I think
Super.
it's the Batfleck bike, especially, the Michael Keaton. I love the confirmation that we are probably going to be seeing these things. But
Mm-hmm.
it is interesting because it's like, okay, so you're not putting out the Ezra Miller toys, but we all know that if this movie's coming out on time, it's still going to be them.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But it's Sasha Kell.
Oh, cool. I don't know who that is. Oh, yeah, I do remember this.
Yeah. Right. So because there was that whole they did the teaser trailer last year at DC Fandom, and it was
Right. I
him
remember
and
people being mad about the leaked set footage too, because people, again, judging costumes based on leaked footage.
yeah, but her costume I remember still looking really good,
Oh,
even in the
yeah.
leaked footage. And I remember
No, it's fantastic.
yeah, right. And the leaked set footage anyway, like the set itself was the Batcave. We all know what it
Right.
looks like. We've all seen Batman. It's a
Absolutely.
Batcave.
No, this is going
There's
to be great.
computers. We're good. Right? And then we get to so I'm really hoping that maybe it's just so unfortunate all these other actors and actresses are all wrapped up in this mess. But we'll I guess we'll find out shortly. I guess all these toys and stuff are going to be coming out probably in time for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
You
gosh,
would think.
you would think because I think Aquaman was supposed to come out any what around Christmas time,
I mean, if they're already starting to announce them, I feel like it's got to be soon.
right? Well, I know they pushed. Well, they moved everything. They pushed everything back, and then moved everything around again. Like right now, all the stuff for Black Adam is out. All the toys.
Oh,
That
yeah.
movie got pushed to next year. So what I'm, I think and I think the Flash was supposed to happen before Aquaman and yeah, it was the Flash was supposed to happen before Aquaman. Then they did those reshoots with Ben Affleck because now it was coming out before the Flash, but now they pushed it again, so now it's coming after the Flash. So Keaton might be back in. It's really confusing. I
Yeah.
almost need I need a
I don't even
graph.
know if they know their movie timeline anymore.
Yeah, I certainly do not. So yeah, I think we're going through our own Flashpoint paradox, just trying to figure out when all these movies are coming out.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to see where all this is going to go. I'm curious what all this is going to look like as well. The idea of like an $80 Batmobile that fits like a 7-inch figure, I'm all for it.
I mean,
We all
that's
know,
pretty cool.
we know Christmas is coming up, and you got a son, so he's gonna need it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
My 11-month-old for sure needs a giant Batmobile.
If anything, we should try to find you like the Power Wheels Batmobile.
The ones they can like sit in.
That's Correct. I can hear
I
him
had
now
a
in the
Barbie
background.
car when I was little.
Ooh,
The bright
that's
pink
cool.
one. Sure did. Drove that around
I
the
grew up.
neighborhood.
I grew up on a farm, so I had a horse.
Well, we're not getting him a horse. Not yet.
You're not what?
No ponies for Christmas.
Oh, bummer. Okay, not this year.
Not this year. Right. Next
Batman rode a horse once.
year. I just love that for him.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But no, those are the things I wanted to bring up. We're reaching close to that hour. Is there any? Do you have any final thoughts?
Not super. I think we covered a lot of it. I'm honestly just, again, it was one of those things when I was reading that Robin run, that feeling of homework. I swear every other page again, it was like that this was referenced in, this was referenced in. Damian Wayne has a girlfriend, sort of, Flatline,
Okay.
who is exactly the kind of character that I'm just not really interested in a romantic story for Damian right now. But if he were to have someone, she's pretty cool. She murdered him, so like I love that for her. And they do have a cool dynamic where there's one point where something goes wrong and she's like, I can't believe you showed up because you thought I was a damsel in distress. He's like, no, I showed up because I thought you were the danger. I thought you were killing people. I'm like, you know what? Good for them. So yeah, I'm really excited for Batman versus Robin, and mostly actually really eager for what's going to come after it, if I'm being honest.
Because it's not a very long series.
No, it's kind of like, I think the same length as like Shadow Wars was.
Right.
Which was another bounce around.
Right. Another. That's it. Batman seems to be full of those right now too.
So tired.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
But no, and I think for me, I want to go pick up Tom King's One Bad Day with the Riddler. I do want to go pick that up this weekend. I know that came out, I think, last week. Just haven't had a chance to get to the darn store. But yeah, I think I think that's really the kind of the big thing I want to read. But now I want to go back and get those. It's only got to be a couple trades for the Damian stuff because it's not a very long series. So
nope, just 17 issues. So highly recommend it, though. It's a great read, especially if you haven't given Damian a chance since his rough start. It's a great time to kind of get to know him again.
Right, and I don't think I've read him since his first solo series where it was him and Goliath. That's a long time ago.
That's a hot minute ago, my dude.
Yeah, like it's crazy because you're just reading other stuff, right? And you kind of you do that run and then you find yourself a different run of something, and
yeah,
you're following that route for a while. And I remember reading around that time too, like Annie Wu's Black Canary series, and where has she been at? But yeah, it's I remember, that whole time, gosh, that was like 2017. Oh man, that was like 5 years ago. God, time is but a construct.
No kidding. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing Damian Wayne actually have friends, which is a cool thing they address. They even address like, you were not friends with the Teen Titans. Like that was a rough relationship. That wasn't friendship. And it shows that, when you take Damian Wayne and really put him in his element, again, everyone on that island has a history of murder, that he actually isn't the crazy one,
Right.
So it's nice. It's a good, fresh, I think, a breath of fresh air for him as a character.
Awesome. So everyone, make sure you go pick that up. You should be able to get the trade from your local comic store. If they don't have it, get them to order it in for you. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They can do all that. So
for
support your local comic store. If you get the app, download the Comixology app. Do that too. Whatever it takes for you to get your comics, read your comics. We are not sponsored by Comixology, so I'll still plug comic book stores.
But we can be.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who watched and hung out with us tonight. And for everyone who's watching on the replay, also thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed the show, and don't be afraid to leave a comment and drop us some likes while you're at it. And I guess I'll see you next week, Lexi.
Yes, and next week, I was wrong last week. Next week is the one where we'll be here on Friday. Instead, this week we were here, now again. My bad, everyone. I'm a mess. I have a baby.
Yeah.
But we will see you next week, Friday. Good night, Gotham, if there is nothing else.
Have
Take
a good
care.
night.
Night.